Good afternoon, traders. Welcome to TradeSetup in the live stream for the 8th of December. Hope we're all doing well again. Hope we had a good day today. It's been a big night overnight in the US and big gains. We saw the S&P trade to new all-time highs. I think it was intraday, and then it backed off a bit from the game, but it held up about 30 points in the day. I think the Dow was up about 250 thereabouts. So very strong session last night. Europe was up strong as well. We had the what was it? The DAX had a couple of strong sessions at 150 points, and then last night it was closer to 300, I think, and held those gains into the close. And same with FTSE. FTSE did very well. So yeah, strong across the board last night, and you can see that with our open today. I think we're up around the 50 or so mark at the moment. We'll take a look at that in a second. Take a look at the index anyway on the ASX 200. Now, just to kick us off, what you're seeing on the screen is obviously the trade setup. We've got all the different links there you can go to for Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And I think we may be on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to jump on there, befriend us, follow us on those, and then yeah, if you do like something, just feel free to like it. That'd be great. We've got our general advice warning on there. Now we only give general advice. We don't give any specific advice. We're not taking into account anyone's positions, anything they're doing. This is just our views only. So I'll just take a quick read through that. Now we've got all that out of the way. Let's jump into the markets now. Let's just take a look at what it did overnight. Let's just click over here, sorry. So you can see the ASX 64 points, so kicking along strong. If we just go to the daily, so we're really just touched above that 5,500 again. So that's very nice. You can see it on daily. Pushed above there, so we talked about this the last few days. We expected to have a bit of a pullback. Probably would have expected a touch lower, but it did touch just traded slightly lower than 5,400s. What did we get down to? A low of 53.83, so 17 points below 5,400. And then we've had the last couple of days have been really strong. We pushed back up above 55, so I think this will continue on and will take us up to 5,600 and through, especially going into Christmas. So we're going to. It looks like we're on course for a Christmas rally, and it's all looking good. Especially the US dragging us up. US is looking very strong, making new highs intraday, all-time highs. Obviously on the S&P, the Dow keeps chipping away at new highs. So they're looking strong. I don't think anything's going to change that momentum going into Christmas anyway. So we'll probably have hopefully it's going to be a pleasant little December and go into Chrissy. And we'll see our market. I'd expect it to trade above. It may find a bit of resistance up there, but it's only 60 points away. That could be done tomorrow the way we're going. Trading above 5,600 and just sort of the next level up from there is obviously 57. You can see some resistance straight across that 57 zone. Hope we can see that there. Yep. 57. So I'm expecting that just to continue on. If you go to the weekly, and that just continues that leg from way down at 4,700. It's holding higher lows. Structure's doing very well. That big push up at 50.50 when we had that the market toppled over because of the elections, and that's just kicking on beautifully. So maybe it's not so much. It's not too far away to say that we could be getting up to 6,000, but I think that's going to take a bit of work still. Yeah, all structurally, it's all looking really, really good. You can see that correction off way back here off 5,000 down to, that was back in 2011, down about 3,900, and then just did similar type of price action, retesting lows and then edged away high, just continuous trend up. And we could just be seeing that, a nice strong leg high, go through 5,600 up to 6,000 would be ideal. Anyway, let's just take a look at the CFD, just the intraday action, and we'll look at the US. That's not it. All right, this is the Aussie 200. You can see it's just opened up. It's that move up last night. So it's from about midnight. The US just, when we go to the US in a second, the S&P just kicked on strong. Pretty much opened and just went bang straight up, and it's just held those gains. I don't know what it was. I did see news somewhere. I think it was on Bloomberg of a big fund or something jumping into the market yesterday, and just whether they're supporting it and just buying up stocks. So whether the market's seen that, it's just given that emphasis to take it straight up through new highs. I don't know where I read that, but just jump on the Bloomberg or Reuters or something and just Google that news and see what you come up with. But I think it's a massive fund, $1 billion fund or something like that. Or you're just jumping into the market and buying up some stocks. So yeah, we've had that was a big move up from pretty much the start of the session in the US, the ring of the bell, had numbers at 12:30, wherever they were. Numbers come out at 12:30, which I think not too bad. Crude oil was down again slightly, even though they reduced it, the numbers were slightly lower than expectations. It's still, I think it's more of everyone bumping up output just after the OPEC come to a decision, just before so people are just looking at whether that's enough to really crimp this output, or the glut they got, get rid of it. But we'll see how that goes with crude. It is still just touched below $50 again a barrel, I think. So the ASX looking strong, did open up today. And a bit of a washout to the lows, but very minor just on the open. And then we've just traded higher since. This is a 30-minute chart. Let's just drill it down to 5 minutes just to see the action. We'll just get rid of some of this, sorry. Alrighty. So when was that? That was at early hours in the morning. So we've opened up here. Just wash out of these. It's only a minor level just on the close of last night. Just a bit of a washout, open lower, and then we've just built lower highs. And technically we're still heading higher. We've got a level down at 55.34, which is holding this leg up just at the moment. Now, if that comes under pressure, we expect a bit of consolidation, or probably more consolidation than actually a rollover, the way this market's going. But that could hold up and just drag us up. Still, quite a bit to go in the session. We'll see how that goes. Let's take a look at the Aussie now. The Aussie did get sold off yesterday over the number, the GDP number, I think it was. We just made that minor double bottom, and that's edged higher through the night, through the US session, and back up towards that resistance at 7,500. Just did spike through that, so it'll be interesting to see from here. A lot of times you do get a washout, and then you get a rollover. So if we do see that a bit of a pullback, say we get through that 74.68 zone, this is an hourly chart, through there and pop back up and build a lower high. Let's just draw that up. So we just did pull back here, back up, build that lower high, maybe a bit of contraction through there. It doesn't work out too well. Let's just start that again. Pop back up, build a lower high, maybe a bit more contraction, then head lower. But that's what could happen. So just look for this type of price action, because it's had that washout. It's just washed out 7,500, where it get to about 06, 07. So not too much, but the key level at the moment is just holding this leg just at the moment is around that, was it 74.15. So we could pull back, contract a bit, make some so lower highs, lower lows, and then build a higher low somewhere around that 74.50, so just give or take, and then that'll take us up through 7,500. But longer term, still contracting that move down. Maybe it's building a longer term base and we're going to head higher, but we'll see how that plays out. The problem is the US dollar. With the US dollar, you'd expect to gain. I do personally expect a bit of a sell-off when they do raise rates, and that's well and truly ingrained into the market at the moment. It's factored in. So really, they're probably going to be looking past December now. I think it's next week, looking past that and just see what they're going to say on the card. What's on the cards for future rate hikes? I think if there's nothing really there, and they're happy with this one rate hike, and then they'll assess it as they go, you might see the US dollar sell off again. But longer term, if they're quite positive on the economy, we're getting the good numbers, and all the rhetoric, I guess you call it, on US dollar is positive, on the US economy is positive. The Trump rally is taken, obviously it's taken as a positive, but this continuation of this attitude into the market on the economic side, on the macroeconomic side, then you'll see the US dollar appreciate, and it's going to put pressure on the Aussie. But we'll see how that goes. We've sort of got that, the same thing. We've had some good numbers out on inflationary numbers out in Australia too. So it's going to be interesting to see how they both go, how they work together. Let's just go over to the S&P. Okay, you see the open there, bang, straight up from the open, hasn't looked back. This is an hourly chart. Let's just get down to some. Look at you can see get into 30-minute. So we did have that big move up. We found a top just around that 22.11. Did have that bit of a washout. We built that lower high, and again a washout of that lower high. And you can see that it's just that washout price action is it's always interesting. If you see that pop up and it pulls straight back, just be wary that anytime you see that, especially on the indices and on currencies, it happens a lot. Sort of washout. It's just people are ready to buy on stop up here. They get stopped into the market. They bought it, then they have to have a sell stop somewhere, and then the market turns around and washes them out when it heads south. And that happens time and time again. And you can see it happen on a major level here, a minor level here. So that produced that lower high, worked its way lower, contracted lower. But it's really just contraction of that longer term trend up. If we can just get that more in play, you can see that grind higher. After that massive bounce after the election, we ground higher, a bit of a contraction of that level, and that's 1/3 to 2/3, like we say a lot. Fibonacci levels, use what you want. We look at as a rough ballpark, 1/3 to 2/3 as a contraction if it's going to get that pivot point or that high low, lower high to actually continue the trend. You can see that there. That's done that in there, and we've just popped up through these highs at 22. Power play there, just bang straight up. So that's very interesting price action. We'll get into 5 minutes, see if there's where it opened. Anyone get into this? Have a bit of a position on the indices? I don't trade it at night anymore. It's too hard for me. Don't get any sleep any days anymore. So with the kids running around going crazy, but it was definitely, what time was that? That's just after midnight. So that was on the number. I don't know. I can't remember what numbers were at last night, but at 12:30 is when they have their major numbers, and then the market moves. You can see that if anything, if there was a good entry here, you'd say just prior to the open on these, assuming that this is just levels going to hold. You got your risk just down here, and you can see that turned out very nicely. Even once you took out these highs, if you can see that through here, and then you've got your entry, another entry and risk. So you just find that trend up. That's probably a prime one. This is a bit preemptive. It could easily touch on that resistance and roll over and take you out at a loss. But once we go through and then we consolidate around that zone, around that resistance, well, now support, consolidate around there, and you can see that projected leg up, just bang, off she went. So that was great. Good trend night last night. All right, that's just a bit of a wrap up. So we'll see if we can continue on today on the ASX, see if we can get some momentum. We've got our stocks we've been viewing have been going quite well. I don't know if anyone is watching the people on listening, watching the alerts. We did have an alert on BRN. It went into a trading halt. We did say if it gets through to 22.5, it opens and trades through there, great, we'll get in. But if it opens up strong, which it was closed for a day, I think, might have been closed yesterday. We alerted it yesterday morning. It was closed all day. Opened up today, opened up strong. You can see opened up 25 quite a bit and then just sold off from there. So generally when that happens, when you go into a trading halt and you're looking around a good level, just hold off. Hold off to see what happens. Never buy it. I mean, you could miss the ball. That's great. Personally, that's what I wouldn't do anyway. I don't want to give advice, I guess, but just be wary when you get that. A lot of times they gap up strong, and then it could easily reverse and give you another chance. All right, so, and that's what it did. You can see BRN's just opened up strong, sold off. So we're back to where we started, where we're looking at 22.5. We're back there now anyway, so we're happy to jump in there, which I think the alert's just gone off. So we'll see if that can kick on up. You can see that price action, it's come off strong off that around 2015, really pushed up hard, and it's made some lower highs, and it's been holding this base pretty much just above 10, around 10. It had kicked up strong off there too, just taking out some of these lower highs you can see. And then we expect that to be pushing up now and pushing up through 30 and so on, and maybe retesting back up to 45. But see how that plays out. Can't think of what else. We've got Galaxy, that's good. That's kicked on today. That's very nice. Pilbara, what happened to there? That's that's kicking on today. So if we can get through 60, we've got a good place to put our risk. Pretty much it'll be roughly around break even. I think we've got it there anyway. But that looks set to continue up through 60, and then we'll be, the next target's really up towards 70 mark. But we'll see how that plays out. That's probably it for now, just of what we got. SLR looking good. We alerted that as well. It's we've got that back here, just at 357 thereabouts. I think it did pop up. It's come back and made that high low, so that'll be confirmed, that high low, when we push up through 60 as well. Is that all the data? Yeah. So that'll be confirmed when we get through 60, and I'm expecting that to happen today. But anyway, let's get into it now. So what we're going to discuss today is exchange traded funds. Are they a great investment tool? I know that's touted. A lot of people have talked about this in the past. I do like them. I do like exchange traded funds. For the longer term, if you got your super or you got some stocks. I mean, if you're a pure stock trader and you don't trade CFDs, any of these sort of leverage products, getting into something that's regulated by the ASX as well is always a good factor. The price you can see through the exchange, And this sort of stuff just gives you comfort, I guess. I like it, there's so many, especially when you start looking into the US, the ETFs in there are phenomenal. The amount of ETFs you can get, short ETFs, and reverse ETFs. As the market goes up, you can short them, and they make money when they go down. There's double shorts, so you get a bit extra leverage built into the ETF. Um, but the exchange traded funds, there's massive amount over in the US. We've got quite a big amount too over here. Um, I think sometimes you just got to be obviously careful with the spreads on them. The spreads can occasionally get quite wide, so you just got to, it's just on some of them that are not as liquid, as not as popular. Some of the new ones, um, but yeah, always just look at that. Um, let's look at the ASX one. That's not it. That's it there. Let's get the chart. Um, all right, so that's the ASX 200 ETF, so the STW. It's quite a big one. It's been around for a while. It's done 6.5 mil today, or probably more than that actually, considering this is only the ASX. Um, but you can see that's easily tradable. So it can give you, you can use it as a hedge if you want to short it. If you want to chuck it into your fund, just want exposure to the overall ASX. Yeah, it's hard to pick. Maybe you see it as a bit harder to pick some good stocks, good quality stocks. I mean, the big blue chips, something that's going to move. You know that this is going to move if you've got a view of the ASX, of the 200. So you can always trade that and just chuck in your fund. And the costs, everything's built into that fund. So it's really just appreciation and price. So you're trading it like any other stock. Has anyone dabbled in the ETFs previously? Anyone traded in them before? Back in the day when I was a broker, we had a fund based around the STW. Problem is, the way I think everyone knows, I don't know who did it. Um, I can never remember. There was a big thing based around the STW, and you build leverage into it. And they had a drawdown of, history says, I think it was 20%, like a built-in drawdown. If that happened, which is very unlikely, um, that'd be okay. They could edge out of positions, but I can't remember what the fund was. They didn't take into account, the GFC. When that happened, it sort of cleaned up that fund. I can never remember what the name was, but anyway, a lot of people got caught. And there was one day when the market was down a couple of hundred points in the ASX. It's because there was just a clean out of positions. Whoever was holding that, say, I don't know whether it was a Macquarie Bank or just unloaded, or ANZ, unloaded on the STW because they had a whole lot of people positioned into that fund. If anyone remembers that, just whack it into chat. I'm just trying to remember the name. But anyway, when I was a broker, some guys there started one, and it was going. You still got to trade it. Either way you look at it, you got to trade it. You got to have an opinion of which way the market's going. I'm not a big believer just jumping in and then letting, doing all your data and not really having an opinion, just holding it without being active. I think most things nowadays you've got to be a little bit active on. And that's my opinion. People might have a different opinion, obviously, but I would rather trade this, when it's this top price action, just what we're seeing today, maybe buying it in here, looking for that kick up longer term, um, however you want to trade it. But I think ETFs can be a great way to trade indices that you may not have as a stock trader, you may not have access to, or unless you trade a derivative product, or a leverage product like a CFD. I mean, CFD is still a good instruments, but sometimes they may not fit your profile. So I think just getting into ETFs is good. Is a good idea. So obviously not all of them. So what I've got here is a list, and I'll get that up, and I'll put in. You can all go to this. I'll just copy this now, and I'll put it in the chat. So I think this is something that's come up with Wikipedia. It's the ASX ETF list. So it's if you can see those, you've got quite a big list, and they're produced by different issuers. I guess you got ANZ ETF securities, which is obviously something I used to trade these a while ago, mainly on the STW, and you can do options on them as well through the US. There's some good ones in the US where you can trade options. So you can do covered call strategies on them. If anyone knows that, buying the underlying and then selling some calls on them just for the income. Obviously, again, you've still got to have an opinion of which way it's going. Um, there is no trading technique that's infallible. I just wanted to put that out there. I've heard a lot of stuff about covered calls and different things, and if the market tanks, then you're stuck with all this stock. You can just keep writing calls on it, but you're still losing on the underlying stock. So horses for courses, that's not for me, but I don't think whatever you trade, got to have a directional opinion on and trade it accordingly. So there's different techniques for different times, I think. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. You've got the different issuers. So the ones I do know, and the bigger ones, obviously better shares. You can see they've got quite a few there. BlackRock, they're a big one too. So they're big into the US and they've produced some good ones in the ASX. And you can see if you go through the list, you see what the actual name of the ETF and what they're benchmarking against. This one, for instance, a PAW, it's a British pound ETF. It's trying to take advantage of what platform. Susan, these are all ASX listed. So anywhere you can trade a share, BHP shares, you can trade these ETFs. So this is like the idea behind them. You can trade them as a share, like you would. Otherwise, you can trade them. You should be able to trade them. Good point. You could trade a lot of these as CFDs as well. Not all of them, obviously, because some of them are not as big as the others. The STW one we mentioned just before, I think you can trade that on the Trade Direct as well, but and some other CFD providers. But just Google the code. I guess have a look at the code. Yeah, so if you have a bit of a look through the list, you've got some that have got exposure to US dollar, renminbi. I've always had a problem saying that one. Like I said, I don't know how big these ANZ ones are. I don't, the ETFs. I don't know how liquid they are. I stick mainly to the better shares. I like BlackRock. Yes, not all of them, obviously. There's some in there you want to trade. So you've got exposure to China. We said US dollar. The S&P in the US. If you're trading ASX shares only, you want some sort of exposure to the US. Um, there's times when that's going to be worthwhile, and you can trade that as a IVV through BlackRock. There's actually another one too, SPY. SPY, it's produced by another issuer. It's based around the same thing, the S&P 500. So you can just go through some of the other bigger ones. I don't know these. These are new since trading them a while ago. Van Eck Global. So Russell Investments also, they're relatively new to me. State Street are big, and you can see STW is produced by State Street. I'd be sticking to those ones too. I just think they've been around for a lot longer. They're a bit more liquidity. SPY is what we just mentioned before on the S&P 500. That would be a good one. So this you can just you can go to the actual. Let's just actually see if you can. I think maybe we can go through here. Anyway, but you can get it up and you can get all the information behind it, anything you want. Just get on Google and search STW, find out, Google the code, and then get it as an ETF, and you can drill it down and just see what's behind it, what it does, the volumes, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, just go through that list, have a look through in your own time. UBS, I don't know, they're relatively new to it. Vanguard are big too. So you're sort of looking through this list. I'll be looking for Vanguard one, State Street. Steer clear of that. Not steer clear. I mean, just have a look at them. Take them be a bit more careful. I'd get prudent and just looking through those. BlackRock are good, and better shares. Sort of the key ones at the moment. So obviously the ones we'll go through a bit of a list. What I do like is the STW. Yeah, support ASX. So yeah, Dav's just chucked in a comment there if you want to see that. Anything that does ASX stocks, these are all traded on the ASX. STW, we got that one there. So exchange traded funds seeking to provide investment results that correspond to the price and yield performance of the 200 largest. So it's the ASX 200 it's based around. And you can see that it's not exactly the same because you've got to remember it is an individual product. Whereas remember we touched down at 50-50, so the prices are slightly different, which probably corresponds to 4,800. Whereas the ASX 200 did touch down and bounce. It did wash out that it probably on the open. You don't know what sort of positions were being traded at that time. But generally, with a bigger view, you can trade this quite nicely, and you can just have exposure to overall ASX if you're not bothered with trying to drill down to individual stocks that are moving. and still get some sort of return if you trade it correctly, obviously. Let's look at another one. USD, we send out an alert to, I think just the other day. And if you look at it on a weekly, it's not, how come that didn't work? Shift enter. No, what was it? USD. All right. So this is a US dollar. You're trying to get exposure to the US dollar, and it's based in Aussie dollars, obviously. Trying to get exposure to the US dollar. So this is something you can trade if you've got a view on the US dollar itself, whether it's going up, down, or sideways. You can trade that accordingly through this ETF based on the ASX. And you can see this one we did like. We'll chart this up. Actually, we'll chart it up now. Might as well get through it. Just as a bit of a heads up, I think it looks quite good. Let me get into that. All right. So what we're looking for, we've looked sort of this support through here is holding, and you can see, it's a major high. It's pushed up, it's pulled back, and it's had some consolidation through here. You can see just touching down, and then it took out this zone through 1310. The thing is, it's showing some good signs with all those squiggly lines on there now. As long as you can see it by breaking through this 1305 mark. It's just showing signs that it's coming out of this contraction, it's holding that base, and you could arguably say this is a minor higher low as well. It just did wash out that on the open, washed out down to 1255. It just touched that support, washed out this level here at say 1265, and then bounced that same session, bounced quite hard, and it's pushed up since then, up to 1330 to 35, and we're just edging lower at the moment. So I think this one's got some potential. You just got to, if you're trading it according to the price structure, obviously you can back it with your fundamentals, what your view is on the US dollar. But I like to purely obviously trade it on the technicals, have my view what I think could happen. Obviously, if there's going to be appreciation in the US dollar, you want some sort of exposure to that, and this is one way to get it. So we're looking for that at the moment. If you push through that resistance up, we've had a good strong move up, and we see that sort of contraction lower, and it's just top. Oh, we can see that it's just touching down now, just below there, around 1300. So what I'd like to see is it start popping up, holding some high lows, and then edging higher. That might be a longer term play, based around that US dollar. But I think definitely that structurally looks like it's got some good room to move, even if it's pushing up towards sort of test that resistance, or even testing up to 1365. And you can easily, by doing that, waiting for that to play out, for buyers to stepping in, and you can see that another higher low potentially building somewhere around here, and just trading off a higher low, and just trying to get it obviously from contraction into expansion like we normally do. All right, any questions on that one there? If anyone knows of some ETFs they want to have a quick look at, we're going to go through. It's no real need to go through the STW as such, because we've been talking about that through the ASX, and where we think in the ASX is heading, obviously higher could be a good way to attack it through the STW. US dollar, this is one we alerted to, which we quite like. We're also going to look at just a few others. IVV. Now, if we go back to here, just get a bit of info on it. IVV is the S&P. That's that and the SPW. So this one is by, I think it's Better Shares, is it? Let's get our list again. I can't remember who it was actually. That's not it. Just one tick, guys. Is it BlackRock? Yeah, BlackRock. So it's the S&P 500. So you got exposure to the S&P 500. It's through BlackRock. I probably just look at the spread on that one. 301.17 to 301.49. So you're looking at that. That's the spread. You just got to be careful of. Just see what it can. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd probably be looking at the SPY. It's big. It's well traded in the US as well. The SPY, they all use it, so you can actually trade options on that. Not 100% sure. I don't know how they go in Australia on the ASX. You probably can, but that's tradable in the US as well, and you can trade options on that for sure. Double AD, we will, Susan, no worries. And ECH. Okay, so let's take a quick look at that one there. Let's just look at it on a weekly, just to take out this fluff. Yeah, so you can see the way it's moving. It's looking good. I mean, you can see it's just taken out those highs. It means it took out that previous highs. So I think longer term, if we get it, that's probably all of it. That's all of it there. Quickly chart this. I think that's coming through there, all right? Yep. So just the usual. You're seeing obviously it's taken out that low, well, that high last night, only minor. Has pushed up, taken out previous. Probably not so much in this, but on the S&P E-mini it did. You've got this sort of patterns wedge formation. I would expect on this, on the SPY anyway, you can see it's getting a bit stretched up here. So that's one thing to just take note of. What I would expect here, if you want to go long that, for exposure into the US, you've had this move up to this resistance. We can just longer term, it's had that decent correction lower, and it's made some inside levels. Pull back, push back up, and a minor pullback. Looked like it was going to head south again. It's just washed out this inside low here, which that's okay. Washed out that level, and then it's just popped straight back through that resistance, and we're just sort of touching up now. We've just touched up on it, that say 300 zone. Was it 293, 294, whatever? But we're right up in that 300 at the moment, right up in the resistance, and it has done that quite strong from that big push down previously. In the leg up, you can see through the S&P, look at the Dow, whatever, anything in the US has had a good strong move higher. I don't mind seeing a bit of a washout, and then I'd like to see some sort of contraction lower, and that could build for a move back up. So you want sort of targeting off a higher low, and we're always trading off higher lows. We always want to see evidence of buyers stepping in, just so we can analyze our risk clearly, and we know where we're going to put our, that way we can define it quite nicely. If we do get that pushback, even a retest down here, retest this support, maybe it could pop back up quite straight through it. And this is where to catch people off guard. People will start chasing it, and then it may retrace on them, consolidate. You don't know what's going to happen, but you just want to. I mean, personally, I wouldn't buy it here purely because what I'm seeing on the daily basis. I don't know what it's doing. What's the Oh, look, it's actually on the daily basis. This could easily pop up 330 and bang, off she goes. So just keep an eye on it. It's longer term, for exposure to it, I think this price action is looking quite strong. You've had, higher lows holding a bit of a washout through that 27 mark, and then it's taken out some inside highs, and it's just trading up at the highs now. We know the S&P and the Dow are trading on new highs pretty much every day at the moment, or every second day. So as exposure to that market, this is a good one. SPY it's called. Now let's just look at one more before we don't dwell on it too much. iShares, it's emerging markets. There's been a bit of talk about emerging markets of late. Well, probably always. IEM. But sometimes if you're sitting there wondering how to get involved in it, ETS is certainly a way. But again, it's probably not a tool that you'd be intraday trading too much, or trading shorter term. It's probably a longer term play, I think, on a lot of these ETFs anyway. STW certainly could probably trade over a couple of days. SPY, I know they do in the US anyway. You could do that, trade it daily, for a few days, a week or so. But longer term, I think they're a good product to trade. Emerging markets, what is at the top? Let's just have a quick look at this. MSCI is iShares. Emerging markets is an exchange-traded fund seeking to provide investment results that correspond to the price and yield performance of publicly traded securities in emerging markets, as represented by the Emerging Markets Index. It's managed by BlackRock Fund Advisors. So you can read through just Google that and go through the actual IEM it is. Now, if we just quickly look at this chart, just take a look at what it's actually doing. Yeah, I think it's got potential. You can see if we go to a weekly, we probably get it daily. Actually, go. So if you can see, without drawing out too much, you can see it's had a low down at say at $30, pulled back, consolidated sort of around that zone. Was it 35? Made a high low. It's pushed back up, taken out the highs. It's been a lot higher up towards 60. Had a good sell-off, and it's sort of held that $40 zone. So it's got another, and you can just see that's rising support through there. If we go to the daily, so just remembering we're longer term, we're building some higher lows. Actually, looking at the weekly, and now we're coming to a crux, I think. If we can draw that up, quickly get a technical view of this. All right, and what do we got here? So you got a bit of resistance. Just remembering, I don't know roughly where it is, but you know, longer term, we've got that rise and support. We're building higher lows. That, in context, the longer term trend on the weekly is a higher low. You know, what are we doing here? We seem to be breaking out. We're holding some higher levels. Did touch up on that resistance at 51. It's pulled back. So now what we want to see is evidence of buyers stepping in. We might be seeing that. We might pop up and then roll over and come all the way back down, like another sharp move down. Really just retesting that longer term trend. We could pull up around that 44. That could be around 44 then at that stage, but it's looking like it's, especially on that weekly basis, it's edging higher. So we've got, let's just see if we can remember what that price is on a monthly, right up towards 60. Okay, so on that weekly, these signs are pretty good. You can see that it's holding these higher lows in here, longer term higher lows. It's just, this could be just retracing some of this this move down from 57. Now we're up at a level here at 51. We could build in that higher low just in here, 46 to 47 or 48 even. Just a bit of contraction. You want to see some minor contraction around here, which is starting to see maybe a bit more of some high lows stepping in, buyers stepping in for a push up through that 51, and then that could take it through 51 up to at least 57 even. If it takes us through 57, you'd be expecting it to head up to 60, and you can probably see, actually you can probably see that. You can see if you go across the tops, go across, it's pretty much sticking to a channel at the moment. So we could be going from the base of that channel or the support up to resistance, which could be around that. It probably is around the 60 by that time. I think it's a fair bit of work to do on that anyway, but you can see maybe if it pushes through 48.5, that could be what it needs. Yeah, and just sort of work its way. If we've got that resistance there, it's pulled back. It's sort of sharp retracement. You can see a sharp push down, sharp retracement here. Some minor higher lows stepping in, push back, another retest, pull back. And we're just up there now. So maybe if we get, we could be just looking now. It's just that straight push back. Maybe retest here, contract a bit, and then go. And that way, it's done a bit of work. It's heading up towards that 51 resistance zone, and then we'll just have to see how it plays around there. Maybe contraction and bang, off we go again. But either way, it's that could be a key level around that 48.50 at the moment, just up there. But definitely something something to think about ETFs. I think. Has anyone actually traded them before, apart from you, Dave? I know we used to trade STW. We used to trade something else in the US. I can never remember what it was. We did a covered call strategy against it. We got it so cheap after the GFC, just after the GFC, that buying the stock, that we actually paid off what we through options. So we had basically our break even was zero, which was beautiful at that stage. It got hammered. It was on the financials in the US anyway. Just never remember what that code is, and the way it got hammered through the GFC, you can look at it and go, well, if the financial system broke down, it's not got to be one or two stocks. Like we did have one that broke down. You got to look at it as a whole and go, well, for that ETF to crash, absolutely, I get taken out on the stretcher. It's got to be the whole financial system breaking down, because it's the top 20 financial shares, but in the US, which is the hub of the globe, pretty much. So that to us, that was a great trade. You know, it was just opportunistic, I guess, when it got sold off hard through 2008. We think we started acquiring it in 2000, beginning in 2009, just when it sort of perked up. Just it's got sold off a little bit more from where we got it. Sold some options, sold a whole lot of calls on it when it was bouncing around, and got us down to pretty much a break even to zero. So it was great. Currently have USD, IJR, ETW. I'm not familiar with those little ones, but let me just have a quick look. So we know USD, IJR. What's that there? Small cap ETF, okay. Seeking to provide investment results corresponding to the price and performance view of small cap stocks. That's a good one. I hope you got that. I hope you got that sort of in this sort of area where it's just popped up weekly. Last few days it got really strong. So yeah, that's on its way higher. It is getting a bit extended up here, obviously. We can look at that. Still may have a bit more to go in it though. Nothing to say it can't keep going. Taiwan, IJR, ITW, Taiwan capped. Okay, there's some good little ones there. They're interesting, aren't they? I find them interesting because I don't know what happened there. NDQ. Now this is going to annoy me because I have to do this. I wanted profile. It's depth. I wanted news. Okay, so you can see that's the Nasdaq ETF. Okay, so you can see it. I reckon they're great, Michael. I like them. Obviously, depending what you're trading, you know how you base your trading around, what techniques you base your trading around, and what you want to achieve out of it. Also, as a long-term strategy, short-term, how you trade. ETFs could really be a good part of a portfolio, a healthy portfolio, or chucking them in your super, is sort of set and forget. I mean, in saying that, I did say before, I don't set and forget as such. I still like to have some sort of view on it technically. But I think as a tool to chuck in your ETF, into your super or such, into portfolio is great. When you can get exposure to things through on the ASX, knowing that it's held on the ASX, it's what was I saying before? I forgot now. It's regulated by the ASX. So there's certain things they've got to cover. They've got to tick off before they can get onto the ASX. Obviously, it gives you peace of mind, and you can trade things that you can't normally trade. So yeah, great. Anyway, that was it. I do think there's a big market for those, and they're just getting bigger from when I used to trade them years ago, about 10 years ago, thereabouts. Probably about that, yeah, 8 to 10 years ago. There's been a hell of a lot more come online. So it's a massive area. Obviously, there's fees and commissions out of those, which are adjusted in the price. But you can always drill down. So anything you want to trade, drill down, go and Google it, take a look at the code. You can go to Better Shares, get it and see all the information, anything you need online. All right, so what we're going to look at, Susan, has just popped up with a couple AAD. Let's take a look at those. And if there's anything anyone else wants to chuck online, well, look good. So that there. Okay, you can see the way I'm viewing this, just going back on a weekly. What is it? Ardent Leisure. All right, this is on monthly, so we'll just take it from big view down to, and then refine it down to the daily. From the left hand side of the chart, we've seen that obviously trading around 2001, sort of around that 80 cent below a dollar. Then it pushed up through a dollar and just kept going for the next, 2004, 5, 6, 7, until the GFC hit and got belted. They got belted like pretty much everything else down through 2008 from the highs around 390, and then it spent the rest of the time up until now. It's just really building off those lows, higher lows building. Still some lower highs that pushed into that through 2011, so it really struggled, and then it's just sort of a bit more contraction, and you can see after that a big move down like that, there could be a lot of time. It's still going to be some time involved. Time's going to be a factor in your charting too, I guess. S6Y, we'll take a look at that, no problem. yeah, what was I saying? So just time factor, and then it's picked up off end of 2011, had another good run up, fell short of those highs, and you can see the steepness is grinding, and then it slowly picked up. If we can go, that's it there. You can see it slowly got a bit more vertical, and you get a sharp move up, bit of consolidation, bang, and it's up she goes again. And then we took out, the thing is, we took out these, rolled over, took out these lows. But in context of this overall move on the monthly, we're seeing another good, potentially good higher low build around that 170 to 80 mark. All right. Um, sort of a, and you can see this sharp move down here. What was that? The 9th of March 2015, started 2015, pushed up off that. It got rejected, pushed up off, come back out and retested it, and just washed it out too. So a little washout, and then we popped up and we built some high lows. You had another washout of these highs up here. So at the moment, you've got a washout on the downside support and a washout on the high side resistance. And spit that out. We get into the daily, draw that up. So at the moment, it's just looking a bit. Actually, we've got a major sort of resistance through there. You can see that washout. This is a washout here somewhere. So say there's support through here, 175. That was from previously. And it built a higher low. You sort of built a higher low through here as well. So we did get a washouts quite frequently with this stock. And this is the top price section. You can see it's vertical. It's gapped up, and then 2 days later or 3 days later, pushed straight up through. That's, to me, if you're looking at that, it's unsustainable. So if you actually long from here somewhere, that's a great place to take, with that price action, a good place to take something off. And then you got this type of roll over here is probably a good area just to exit a remaining position, because if that was strong, that should have built some high lows and then got on with it, but it didn't. It's rolled over and obviously just capitulated all the way back down. So this overall is more consolidation between 285 and 185, so about $1. They're about $1 range. It's built some high lows off here, but we're all the way back down. So really taking a trade, taking something off there. You can see that bang, little washout here. It's doing that same thing in reverse, really. It's starting to perk up, and we could just head all the way back up to 275, to the top end of the range. So this one doesn't look too bad. Obviously, your risk could be down here, and then you're sort of gearing it up to pushing up towards that top end of the range. Just range trading between support and resistance. That's the way I would be viewing that just at the moment. Who's to know? It could spend a lot of time consolidating, but I think for a major new move higher, let's just go to this, just to a weekly. For another, I think it's got to do a bit of work, quite a bit of work. Because of that, you can see these sharp moves, sharp move down. Support's holding. It's not a major. The thing is, it's a higher low, but it's only just off support at 170, only about 10 or 15 cents higher. So in context of it being up at 290, that's a deep correction. So that is not conducive to a lot of strength just picking up, but longer term, I think it's got a bit of work to do, and that could head higher. I think that's starting. It's the initial stages of some really good long-term structure, to me anyway. Let's, as we look at AAD, what was the other one? SEH, quickly. Oh, all right. Just, what's this one? Sino Gas. All right. So opened up. This is a monthly. Built some high lows, pushed up to highs at 26 cents. We've worked our way back down, pretty much retesting these lows around that 3 or 4 cents. And currently, we spent a bit of time consolidation. We're just holding highs just above 8. All right. So if you go back down to the weekly, that's not bad structure there. We've built some high lows, popped up, tested the highs where it pretty much kicked off from, I think, way back in 2009. Roll over, yeah, obviously a bit of profit taking there, or whoever, I don't know if it's news, it's pushed out lower through 2015, and it's bounced off, so we've got to through a key level around that 10-cent mark. If we can do it, we'll go to a daily anyway. All right, 10 cent, it's like 50 cent, but 10 cent is a bit cheaper. So I hope you appreciate my dribbling sometimes, talking rubbish, guys. So it's pushed. So we had that low, that real capitulation down to sort of that that sort of major support zone there, and then we picked up off there and pushed up through. This was a key level at that time. So if you're looking, I know you can't see, but I've got my hand covering this, sort of from here, right? Left-hand side of that line. This is the unknown at the moment. So if you're looking from here, that's the key level up at 10 cents. All right. So if we've pretty much from here on in, we've held some high lows, we've pushed up, held another high low, and we pushed through. So that's key. The problem is we're just working our way back at the moment. But really, I guess you can see that this is what you like to see. I'll just draw that a bit clearer through here. Say that 8.5 zone. It's washed it out, which is a good sign, and we've taken out back, pushed back up through 10, and now we're just pushed back up through 11.5. So this to me is coming out the other side. It's consolidating around 10, where people might be trading it because of this move down, expecting a deeper correction. Like we said many times, sometimes when it's a good market, a strong market, it doesn't pull back a lot, and it can catch people off guard. And this is where you might catch people chasing it back up again. To me, just because we popped up through 11.5, what I would preferably like to see is that higher low build. I'd like to see just probably work back into 10, 10.5, even 11. Maybe do this type of price action around 11.5. Just consolidate around here, and then start taking out some minor highs, some lower highs, sorry, and building some minor, and then just that pop through. And that'll give you a little trade, I think, to take you up through at least 13 and sort of target the top end as well. What targets have we got? Yeah, so from there, once you get up through here and get up through, say, 13, yeah, that's continuation on a weekly basis. It is getting a bit stretched on the weekly, and the daily's sort of up there, overbought territory, so I think might have a bit of work to do before that plays out, but it's looking okay. Anyway, what's the other one? We could look at SXH, SXY, Cenex. Now, just at a glance, that weekly, it's got similar type of structure on that one. See through here at 10 cents, it's pushed down. Obviously, we have these really choppy action, had some good news, whatever, it's pushed it up, straight back down again, and it's worked its way down just below 10, pushed up off 10 to 50. Good news, there's obviously some profit taken. Anyone that's bought it in here, starting to profit take, hold some higher, lower highs, worked its way back to just held above 10, pushed back up and had that big run up to new highs, $1.15, $1.20, and then we built a major lower high, and that lower high has produced that leg down, but it's held up above 10 again. So now, on a monthly basis, probably got a bit of work to do on the monthly, but that price action there on the weekly is looking quite good. And you can see it's a bit like what we just mentioned on or whatever that was, SEH, is that consolidation that some around the resistance level. If we go to the daily, so we've looked at this. Don't know if we've traded. I can't remember I'm pretty sure we traded this before. I think we've done all right on this. I think we got this. We might have got this leg up out of here, and then it sort of chopped us around through here. Let me just look to see if we actually traded that, which I'm sure we did. I just can't remember because my memory is not the world's best. SX. Here we go. Yeah, we traded it. Actually, didn't. I don't think it kicked off. Oh no, it did. We got it a little while ago, so we got chopped previously. I'm sure we've taken something on this one anyway. SXH. Yeah, no, so we've done okay in that previously, and we've been beaten up a bit on it as well. All right, so just looking at this one, it's definitely on the radar, and we're watching it purely because of this top price action. If we have a look, so we can all see that. So we've got, this was a key level, and it's pushed up above there off this, this low. It's traded a few times. It said 1, 2, 3, 4, say. It's maybe mainly through here. It's around 11, 12 cent mark. It's pushed up off there, but then it's held that that zone. Draw that a bit straighter. It's held above there, and it's held some little inside level. It is contracting lower at the moment. If it keeps holding up off here, what you'd want to see is this contraction. If you can see drawn a different color. It's holding up off this support, through here. It's bouncing off here. It's picked up. It's coming back. So what you'd want to see is just to pop out and then high lows hold, because it can easily pop out, drag people long, and then wash them out again and roll over. So if it can hold some higher lows and then you get it with a push up just for a minor lower high, that could lead to a good strong move higher, and then you've got targeting the 40 and even above. All right, so I still think this is looking good, and it's spent a lot of, see, there's the time involved in this as well from May, just holding above that 21 zone. It is contracting into it, but there's buyers are stepping in, and once they start stepping in at higher levels, I think that could look pretty good. But I'd like to see that little pop up through that downtrending resistance zone. All right, does that make sense there? But I think it's definitely on the cards, this one anyway. All right, so we'll probably call it a day there. It's been a good little session. If you've got any questions, just send them through to support at tradesetup.com.au. Any more questions just before we kick it off? We pull the pin. Let's just see, just waiting for everyone to catch up, see what the market's doing. Silver Lake looking good. Galaxy still looking good, actually looking great. Ooh, looking really good. That was a little pop up since we were talking. 8 million today, so it's doing some good volume. Galaxy's looking great. So we are pretty much long this one now, BRN, around 22.5, 23, where if you can get in there. Seek was a short. Ideally, I think it hasn't set up just yet, but I'd like if it can build that sort of lower high around here, and then come. It's just the problem is it's got extended with that little move down. Got sold down pretty hard, but it's holding a higher low just at the moment. But it could just contract and then roll over from there. So a bit of work to do on that before we start jumping in. CKS had a good move up. We got most of that. We took some off at just under 598, I think, thereabouts. Hoping to see, this is what's concerning us just at the moment, is that little push up to, original push up to 35, they're at 635, another little push up to 620. And if we start rolling over from here, which not unwarranted, getting contraction back before it kicks on. We'll see how we go. Anyway, let's call it a day there, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoyed it, and we'll speak again tomorrow. Don't know what the topic is just yet. If you've got any ideas, feel free to put them through to support at tradesetup.com.au. Something we can discuss, something that takes your fancy. Might even talk about risk, how to manage risk. We'll talk about that soon anyway. I know a lot of people do know, but sometimes it gets gets to be a bit of a grey area anyway. It can be a bit of a problem for some people. But let's maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. But anyway, keep an eye out for the alert tomorrow to know what we're talking about. And then feel free to join us. It'll be around 12:30 again, Melbourne time, Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time, I think. Yeah, joining. Great work, guys. Speak to you tomorrow. Thank you.